जागोन सानो माने हिनजाव जाबा नांला बिदि सानदों आरो
बिदिनोसै दसे मोजां दसेनो गाज्रि जायो नालाय गावनि देहाया संनाया बिदिनोसै संग्रा गैया जाहैबाय दा संनांगौ गोनां
माने हिनजावखौ मावसोग्रा नालाय बिमानि ओंखायनो बे मावसोग्राखाय सासे हिनजावसा मोनबानो जाबाय बिदि सानदों
There have been complications with Dukushri's birth, and it's taking longer than expected. It's midnight, and the health centre has to close for security reasons. 2 hours after giving birth, Dukushri walks back home. The day after, things are placid and life just goes on. Dukushri now has the girl she so longed for. She calls her Alaishri. Assam in northern India has been going through a bloody internal conflict for the last 10 years, with tribal wars and a disdainful government that neglects its citizens. We have recorded Alaishri's birth to document the life of a newborn in a displaced family. Our plan is to film the first few years of her life. That's why we go back to India 1 year after her birth. But the meeting is not what we had imagined.
बिदिनो फेदेरबाय नालाय खस्थ' खालामनानै खांबाय देरबाय दासो ससेयाव थांबाय बेलाय आंनाव गाबनाया थाखासिगोन माथो खालामनो आरो आं सानदोंमोन आरो बिसोरदि आगोलाव होनलांखानाय नालाय बिसोरथ' गावसोर होननाय थारिखआव सफैगोन बे गथ'आबो थाबायहैनायजों बिराद अनफैसिगोन बिसोरो गथ'फ्रा गावसिनि आखाइ अनफैसिगौमोन आंना फिसाया एसेयावनो गोमोरलांबाय बिदि होननानै दाथ' सप्तासेयानो जायाखै नालाय ओंखायनो गोसोआव फैयो
Alaishri died of malaria in her mother's arms in a train wagon. She was heading to the nearest health centre 8 hours away. She's one of 6 million under 5s dying every year in the world due to preventable causes. Ten years ago, we went to 4 continents to film the birth of 4 girls. They all had one thing in common. They had inherited a situation of extreme poverty passed on through generations. We saw them being born, and we followed them for the first few months of their lives. Unfortunately, the Indian girl, Alaishri, died. Now we will return 10 years later to meet them again and find out whether they achieved a better life.
They're working, but no job, nothing for us to do. We just sitting down. So I said to my people, and they say feeding or helping or.
We meet Esther, Secret's mum, a year earlier in Monrovia. She's 19 and about to give birth. Esther has suffered the war in all its rawness, has never known any better. A brutal war that has lasted 14 years and has left the country depleted. Her family, like thousands of others fleeing the war zones, pile up in the capital. Her daughter's birth is imminent, and we have been waiting all night at the hospital run by Médecins Sans Frontières, one of the few operating ones in the country. But Esther hasn't shown up, and we have decided to go to her house.
Secret, happy secret.
You get a secret.
Secret?
Yeah.
Happy
The labor, she got in labor, she now know. She now, they were looking at secret, she now know.
No car for all the cold or play. I buy a finish lane now, all the car finish baggy.
Secret was born at midnight, and Esther didn't want to go into the streets. Violence is deeply ingrained in society, and women are the most fragile. 60% of Liberian women have been victims of sexual violence. The city is full of ex-combatants without jobs, and it's really dangerous. The government, without any structure, is incapable of managing the situation. Secret is one, and the family lives a peaceful life at the granny's house in the countryside, where it's easier to survive. But this first year hasn't been easy. Esther and Secret have been abused.
Now, one boy tell me, say, when you see Esther dry. But the boy finished leaving Esther in the rubber bush. Now, how come my husband look for money? I go for them and bring them on the side with me. And I know what the boy is now.
You not like a journey, you are in Satan, and Pamela do this on there. You jump on the gas, I'll begin a little baby.
But things seem to start looking brighter, and they might finally be able to face the future with optimism. Ten years have gone by, and we're back to find Secret. We soon realized the country has changed a lot. Paved roads where there used to be tracks, new buildings and businesses are opening up around the city. 10 years on, Liberia is a very different country. The war marks have slowly disappeared, but it's still common enough to see groups of ex-child soldiers who haven't found their families and live on the streets.
Majority of all you see doing these things, we are frustrated. We don't have hope. So whenever we take in these drugs, it cancel us. It make us to forget about our problem. Be very, very bad, but no power and no money, and to advance myself.
Bouncing off an economic model which relies on the private sector, a new upper class has emerged, still a small minority. We will soon find out whether Secret's situation has also improved. This budding economic progress hasn't reached Secret's family. Their situation is still very precarious, even worse. In these 10 years, the family has increased. Secret now has 4 little siblings. The last 2 are twins. Esther, her mother, has had 6 children from 5 different fathers. All of them, except the last one, have left her.
Now I'm playing. I'm not getting 6 children. I was not expecting it.
But what got you to get the 6 children?
I didn't mean it.
Secret is now the eldest at home and looks after the little ones.
You can call me to Sani. You can teach me. One time my grandma said I call a sushi say I cook it well. And now for that time start cooking.
That's over. You go on for a bit soon. To work tomorrow.
But the economic resources haven't increased at the same pace as the family. They barely have enough to add to their diet of a daily rice dish.
I'll choose for 2. Take it.
Oh, this guy is ready to
Let me get a moment.
Let them Not one very Larry. Larry, before you.
When you born, you finish, you catch you finish cooking, and you put you in a little pen and you go play football. If you calling it in, if you causing
I experience to the way I suffer behind. I didn't follow me. I didn't follow me. I can say now. I say down. I be experienced to because the way I born so, and now for them to be here in the future.
Esther lives with her latest partner, but Secret has decided to stay with her granny, as it's the only place where she's found some stability.
That's my school now. It's a little job. Don't minute. Okay. I can be ready to say Mommy ready.
Your father is the head of the family. Thank you.
You see, the school is almost empty this morning. Yesterday the students were put out because they did not pay school fees, and there are many who are up to now are not registered.
Secret has been a good student. Her grades didn't go below A or B.
Most of the children can be here, but beside me, beside two or now in the class.
But things have changed. In this neighbourhood, there's no public school. There is only a private school with a €70 yearly fee, which the family can't afford. Secret has left school.
I won't be that because I want to put it for my mom and my grandma and my friend, my brother and my sister.
10 years earlier, President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf made a declaration of intent which, for Secret and many other Liberian children, has not yet been fulfilled.
Today, women are increasingly competing at all levels in society. To do so, they must be prepared. So our challenge is to make sure all of our young people, particularly our girls, they get into school, they get educated, and they go as far as they can in their professional life. So,
without a chance to go to school, Secret's likelihood to break the poverty circle she's inherited from her parents will be small. We return to the isolated south of Bolivia, one of the poorest countries in South America. Noelia has just turned 10. She was born at the same time as Secret in Liberia. They both belong to extremely poor families. Noelia, just like Secret, is a very good student. But unlike Secret, she can still go to school.
Me despierto sollozando. Me despierto sollozando. Por Diosito y por San Roque. Por Diosito y por San Roque. Solo tú eres mi tormento. Solo tú eres mi tormenta. Tormento.
In 2005, we meet the Mendozas, a family of Quechuan farmers. Hilaria is about to give birth to her 7th child. Ciprian, her husband, has 2 tools to survive, an axe and a Bible. Hilaria reaches the inn just in time for the birth. They have 2 boys and 3 girls, and they lost a boy who was only 5. Now they'd like another boy to help Cyprian with the farm work.
Que si es varón, va a poner el nombre de Moisés. Moisés, y si es nena, ya lo veré, todavía no le he planificado. Si viene el dolor, cuidado, haga bien. Ya.
La perilla. ¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué te pasa, chiquito? Hace frío este mundo. Hace frío.
It's a girl. She won't be called Moisés.
Lo hemos fallado.
2 days after the birth, the baby gets home, a humble wooden hut on hired land. The family is poor. They live on less than €1 a day, like 25% of Bolivians. Later on, we will find out that Cyprian drinks, gets violent and fights with everybody. The situation in the hut is not as happy as it seems.
Quiere conocer el sol.
Happy on appearance. That's how we leave the Mendozas, the year we meet them. Just before we leave, they tell us the girl's name, Noelia. Her future is very uncertain, and so is that of Bolivia, as Evo Morales has just been elected as president. An indigenous man rises to power for the first time with a goal: to nationalize hydrocarbons. With an essentially extractive economy, the Liberian model is opposite to that of Evo Morales, trying to attract foreign investment. Companies such as Firestone achieved so much power that it was said they were responsible for government presidents getting in or out. Now Liberia has found a new commercial partner, a very powerful ally building roads faster than anyone and who only wants to talk business.
And we are now going to meet the international community to talk about the post-Ebola economic recovery. And who's the first to launch it? China.
An ally that has also found an unspoilt market to sell its cheap consumer goods.
When I go to Washington after having received this, I can go to Washington and say, we have started our reconstruction because China, our best friend, was right there this morning to send me oil and to send me oil with all the things that I need to start the recovery program. Look.
The big Chinese business giants were quick to accept that invitation. The company China Union won the concession for 25 years to exploit the iron mines in County Bong. But the game has taken an unexpected turn. Nobody had predicted such drastic price reductions for iron in the global market. The machines have been sitting still for 6 months. Liberians are discovering that their economy doesn't depend on them anymore, but on the omnipresent global markets. The great promises of millionaire investments could end up in nothing if multinationals think their profits might be in jeopardy. Now the Chinese are not as welcome.
I know. Fuck you. Fuck you too. Yeah. Fuck you too. Mama, hello. Yeah, yeah. I see you, Chinese man. Mama, fuck Chinese man. Fuck you too. Yeah, you could be our people, man. I will railroad. 2 years, 6 months, nothing. I go achieve on that. I'll take it one US every month. Hello, my brother. You probably could for Chinese man. Come on, people. Look at me. Okay, hello. Okay, you see black people, man. You could for common people. You go early. To early, why we not be money? What? Go early. Go for early. Yes, you go. You black.
Liberia has got big international investments, but so far Secret's life hasn't changed. Her family has been left outside any opportunity to prosper, and nobody has helped them. They're known as uncoupled wagons. We say farewell without knowing when we'll see Secret again, but certain that without the necessary tools, it won't be easy for her to break the circle of poverty in which she lives. In Bolivia, 10 years later, Noelia's family lives in a different place, in Rio Blanco, on the land where Ciprian, the father, started to work after the girl was born. It was a forest on a mountainside. Ciprian got a loan to buy this piece of land, a place nobody wanted, far from everything. He dreamt of making his home there. It seemed like an impossible mission. The forest has disappeared. Now there is fertile land, and Ciprian is a very changed man and seems particularly happy.
¿Has visto tijera pasar, mamita? A ver, ¿pares por ahí adentro? ¿Le he visto pasarme? Estoy peluqueando, clineando. Estoy clineando, así queda más pintudo, más bonito. Si no, dice, este animal no tiene dueño, me dicen por ahí los amigos.
Nosotros los dositos. Nosotros los dositos, así, vivimos haciendo todas las actividades que hacer en la casa, a veces él en su trabajo, yo aquí en la casa, la mayoría yo en la casa. Ellos también, cada uno se han salido, se han ido a trabajar, a estudiar, me han dejado sola.
It seems like Ciprian and Hilaria's situation has changed radically. But when we returned a year after the birth, the 6 children still lived in the old hut. They were still poor, and Ciprian hadn't given up drinking. And Noelia, the queen of the house, wasn't walking yet. It's Friday. Noelia and her sister Aga Leni come back from school to spend the weekend at their parents' house.
Noelia tiene un carácter medio fuerte. Cuando se enoja muy poco te habla. Ese carácter lleva de mí. Yo era malo, me enojaba y no hablaba. Y eso es que ella lleva, ¿no? Es un poquito medio enojona, se enoja.
Tímida es, siempre así es. Ella no así comparte con cualquiera, no le habla, calladita. Yo ha sido así, por eso debe ser mi hijita.
Cyprian preferred a boy to help him with his farm work, but with Noelia, he got a great surprise.
La casa de mi papá, eso me gusta. En la casa, no me gusta lavar los platos y traer agua. Algo una vaca la ha hecho así. Ir a traer el ternero y sacar todas las vacas, los caballos, todos los animales que estaban ahí. Y después él sacaba y estaba en la puertita, la agarré y de ahí también. Yo he ido de arriba y ella ha ido de abajo. Hay que gritarle para que me haga caso. Una vaca blanca es que tiene ternerita, quiere moquetear cuando le pillan a su ternerita. A los niños y a los perros lo quiere atropellarlo.
¿Cuánto es 8 por 8?
64.
64. ¿Y 5 por 8?
40.
¿Verdad? 40.
Con otra pues.
Every Monday at 4 a.m., Cyprian wakes the family to get the girls back to school, where they'll spend the week. Religion helped Cyprian quit alcohol. He's been practicing it even more devotedly since.
Querido buen Dios, que estás en los cielos, cuánto, Señor, estamos agradecidos en esta mañana nuevamente, Señor, por recibir este otro día de regalo. Gracias, Padre Santo, porque tú eres tan bueno para con nosotros los pecadores. Amén. Amén. Bien, vamos ahorita a hacer el desayuno y van a ir a la escuela. Yo voy a ir a pillar el cabello ya. ¿Vas a preparar el desayuno ya? ¿Ya está ahí? Bueno, vamos.
¿Qué te vas a sacar? Ponete, te va a hacer frío, en caballo hace frío.
During all these years, Evo Morales' government has been branded as populist, but the truth is that he's helped people like the Mendozas.
El gobierno ha visto también con buenos ojos al sector campesino. Nos ayudó entonces. Nos dio motobomba, alambres para cerrar. Tenemos un monto anual que nos da de 6.000 bolivianos. Antes vivíamos en unas casitas así de barrito, de palito, de madera. Y hoy por lo menos hemos mejorado con eso.
Cuando no vuelven mucho tiempo, yo tengo pena de mis hijos. Más que todo de mis hijitos, no varones, que son hay algunos hijos varones, se dedican a tomar con los amigos, llevan por mal camino. Y yo pienso en mis hijos más que todo.
Hilaria has always worried about her sons leading a bad life, like their father when they were little. But Juan and Severino have always helped Ciprian in the farm. At the start, they planted peanuts and corn.
El maíz es para la gallina, se hace api para los perros, también para los cuchis, para nosotros igual sirve para mote, para hacer comida, para todo sirve casi.
Now Juan and Severino are men, and they still come and help their parents, despite the harshness they experienced as kids, with Ciprian drinking and beating them.
Hace 10 años cuando ustedes me conocieron, yo me acuerdo compraba alcohol 2 litros. Le preparaba con agua, le preparaba con yupi y bebía. Era malo, peleaba, gastaba el dinero. Faltaba para la alimentación para mis hijos, para mi esposa, para comprarme una ropa. Era malo, les castigaba, le picoteaba. Porque yo tuve problemas cuando era bebedor del vino. Estaba afectando a los hígados. Y me recuerdo bien un día el doctor me dijo, cuando fui al consultorio, me dijo, si tú quieres tener la vida, deja el vino. Y si no quieres, dale duro. Yo me propuse y dije, no, lo dejo el alcohol. Y bueno, y lo dejé, empecé a leer la Biblia y cambió la vida.
Bueno, mi decisión era salirme de la casa, ¿no? Y no volver. Eso era mis planes, porque no había un buen trato de padre a hijo. Los tres, ¿no? Los tres mayores han sufrido bastante, pero bueno, ahora ya estamos todo solucionado, como se dice, para todo hay solución. Solucionado y ahora no hay rencores, no hay nada.
Te lo quito.
Noelia has been lucky. The government has built boarding facilities beside the school so that kids that come from the mountains can attend class every day. Illiteracy in Bolivia has decreased dramatically in the last few years. Noelia and her brothers are the first generation in their family to go to school.
Yo no tuve el apoyo de mis padres. Porque si yo hubiese tenido el apoyo de mis padres, no hubiera estado viviendo esta situación. En mi niñez, hasta mis 12 años, mi padre no me lo compró un pantalón, una camisa. Vivíamos en campo, mi padre no sabía ni leer ni escribir, así que a lo campo vivíamos.
Teníamos que hacer cuatro multiplicaciones de arriba 4 y arriba abajo 3.
Yo les digo a Noelia, acá le digo, nosotros te estamos poniendo al internado para que estudies. Te estamos dando la gran oportunidad nosotros. Y a nosotros nuestros padres no nos dieron esa oportunidad. Me alegro porque tienen buenas notas mis hijas. Espero que logren su objetivo, que estudien y me voy a sentir feliz cuando ellos sean profesionales. Mejor caminando.
But the welfare achieved by the Mendozas could be under threat. They live on soil that's very rich in gas and petrol. Despite it being a protected area, the mechanisms of the system have been set in motion. Explorations have started. In the forest, we find the sites that have been prepared to carry out tests and determine where the deposits are. That's the step prior to exploitation.
Yo lo veo lo malo. ¿Qué va a ser de aquí de 20, de 30 años? Para la generación, para nuestros hijos, para nuestros nietos. Porque el petróleo no es eterno. Ese un día se va a acabar. Porque yo conozco un lugar llamado Palos Blancos. Es una zona productora de comés. Con tanta explotación que hicieron, hoy en el día no hay agua. No hay agua. Y entonces nosotros corremos el mismo riesgo.
So far, the Mendozas haven't been affected by the petrol issue. For Noelia, life is much better than when she was born. The country has experienced some prosperity due to the good price of raw materials. Poverty has been reduced. Thanks to everyone's efforts and help from the government, Noelia and her family have prospered. Now they have hope, a lot more than some years ago when we first met them. 10 years ago, we chose Sweden as a paradigm of welfare state, a country with a model which back then was opposite to those of Bolivia and Liberia. But in Sweden, it wasn't all perfect. The Gomda, the Invisibles, were refugees who'd received a deportation order. They lived in fear, hidden in some kind of limbo. Micheline is Congolese. She fled the war and poverty in her native country. Her petition for asylum has been turned down.
Quand j'ai eu une réponse négative, c'était pénible pour moi parce que je n'avais aucune ressource. Il n'y avait pas l'argent, je n'avais pas un endroit fixe que je survive. Oui, c'est dur avec le froid de ces pays ici, c'est dur. C'est dur, c'est pas facile.
Micheline has an imminent deportation order. Boto, a Congolese musician who came to Sweden as a refugee 20 years ago, has offered to let her stay in his house just now that she's due.
Qu'est-ce qui a passé?
Qu'est-ce qui a passé? L'enfant est sorti. Direct. Donc, ça c'est un choc. Oh, l'enfant est déjà là, sorti. Venez. Donc, ça a pris. Oh, maman. Oh, mon Dieu. C'est pas chose facile, ça. Vraiment. C'est parti vite, hein. Va très vite. C'est pas possible, mon Dieu. Incroyable.
Micheline has given birth unexpectedly and without help. The umbilical cord is still connecting mother and baby.
Micheline.
Så. Fin liten flicka. Har du sett henne? Ja. Ja, det är så.
The girl will be called Daniela.
Blir det inte någon polisen ska bli inblandad eller?
Nej, inte, vi blandar inte in polisen här. På sjukhuset inte. För hon är här illegalt då, eller?
Hon är här illegalt, men hon har sökt flera gånger. 2 gånger hon fick negativ.
Je n'ai pas poussé, je n'ai pas fait des efforts, je n'ai rien fait. Et l'enfant est sorti comme ça. Mais j'ai souffert tellement que ça faisait très mal. Très mal. J'ai jamais senti ce mal-là. Quand elle est sortie, directement elle a pleuré. Elle était tombée par terre. Elle était tombée par terre. Hier, Boto a essayé d'appeler son papa. Il a appelé par 4 fois et il ne veut pas répondre. Il ne veut pas prendre le téléphone.
C'est la même chose. Il ne répond même pas. Il a changé de carte. Je crois qu'il a changé de carte.
avec le froid là-bas, on doit la protéger. Oh, Daniela.
Micheline's aim is to get the Swedish state to recognize Daniela as a citizen, since the father has Swedish nationality.
Vem är pappan?
54
Han svensk medborgare?
Ja, ja.
Okay. Men frågan är då, vi kan ändå inte göra någonting. Är föräldrarna gifta med varandra?
Nej, de är inte gifta.
De är inte gifta. Då måste man... Det första ni ska göra är att ni ansöker om att få bekräfta faderskapet. Att ni vänder er till socialnämnden.
But the bureaucracy makes her realize that without the father's acknowledgement, things won't be that easy. Micheline has managed to get the father to acknowledge the baby. Daniela is officially a Swedish girl, and she can enjoy the benefits that the state grants to any citizen. The state has also granted Micheline asylum, since she's officially the mother of a Swedish minor.
Tu avais dit qu'il faut que je te montre le passeport de Daniela. Ok, attends, je viens avec. Tout doucement, Daniela. Non, je sais que c'est pour toi, mais attends.
Ça, c'est le passeport suédois.
Oui, c'est le passeport suédois.
Micheline is still living with Boto and his family. Boto's children, Marie-Thérèse and Adam, are like siblings for Daniela. However, life in Sweden is not easy. Micheline doesn't have a job, doesn't speak Swedish. She still has a long way to go. Ten years later, we go back to Sweden to look for them. But despite all this time having maintained a good relationship, Micheline is unexpectedly elusive.
Allô? Micheline?
Mais Amanda, je ne peux pas causer tout de suite là parce que je suis au travail. J'ai terminé aujourd'hui à 21h30. Appelez à n'importe quelle heure, Amanda. Je dois raccrocher parce que je suis au boulot. C'est à vous de parler.
Mais Micheline, excusez-moi, tu savais que mon frère...
We decide to go and find Boto, who gives us some clues about Micheline's new life.
Elle a su vraiment s'adapter à tout. Elle s'est mise aux études, à apprendre la langue. Sa vie privée, moi, je ne sais pas. Je ne crois pas qu'elle peut avoir de problèmes économiques.
Boto confirms that Micheline doesn't want to see us, but we don't know why. After numerous phone calls and emails, finally Micheline opens up and tells us the truth. She has remarried, and her new husband has forbidden her to have any contact with us. Micheline lives like any other Swedish woman, with a comfortable life which allows her to travel and buy expensive clothes, far from the days when she slept on the subway. Things have also changed in Sweden. The country that has been so generous with Micheline has decided to shield itself and close its doors to refugees coming in. The Parliament is voting today on one of the most restrictive laws in Europe in this regard. Paradoxically, the debate amongst political parties starts on World Refugee Day. If passed, the new legislation cancels permanent asylum and establishes a temporary one, renewable every 13 months. It also prevents family reunification.
Mot bakgrund av att Sverige redan i dagsläget har en hårt pressad situation i välfärden till följd av migrantkrisen anser Sverigedemokraterna att det finns skäl att utreda vilka möjligheter som finns för att ändra på detta.
The day after, while voting is taking place, humanitarian organizations protest outside the parliament. In 2015, 163,000 refugees arrived in Sweden. Around 80,000 will be thrown out soon with the new law.
And they voted with a majority voting in favor, which was very tragic because it's a very black day for Sweden and even a darker day for Europe. We have become literally one of the toughest EU member states in its asylum politics.
Sweden has shielded itself, closed its borders. It has taken a dangerous step that many European countries could follow. Defending one's own, the fear of what's alien and different, the terrorism paranoia. They challenge the international conventions that compel countries to protect the thousands of people fleeing war and death. Europe is navel-gazing while a part of the world bleeds out. Boto's two children whom we met, Marie-Thérèse and Adam, are already teenagers. Marie-Thérèse is still in contact with Daniela.
Before, when we was little, we was like this. We always played her in the park and everything. We played. We also watched TV, movie, or baking something together. When her mom travels, she buys clothes. I think she's gonna work with fashion because they're really into fashion. And they are into Michael Kors. They like Louis Vuitton. She went to Paris last year with her mother.
Aujourd'hui, Micheline, elle a sa vie, elle travaille, elle a son permis de conduire, elle s'occupe des personnes âgées, des gens qui sont malades. Elle habite ici. Elle ne voulait pas vous voir. Hein? Donc vous-même, vous connaissez la raison. Hein? Donc c'est un peu ça.
Sweden has given Daniela the opportunities her mother didn't have in Congo. If she had been born there or in Liberia like Secret, her life expectancy would have shortened 25 years. It's just one example of the huge and ever-increasing gap that separates the world's rich population from the most disadvantaged. Noelia's family in Bolivia has managed to flank this gap, which excludes millions of people from any chance of development. When states give tools and support education, the gap between these two worlds gets smaller. But the states have failed to protect Secret in Liberia and Alaishri in India, who died from malaria when she wasn't even 1. Her death illustrates the tragic fact that in the world, 1 in every 6 children die before the age of 5, half of them when they're only 1 month old. A statistic that could be prevented and which today represents one of the biggest inequalities in the world.